A group of Zimbabweans are picketing outside the High Commissioner's office in Pretoria. They're calling on South Africa to step in, given the close ties between the two countries. eNCA reporter Khayelihle Khumalo is standing by for us at that demonstration. Khayelihle, what exactly does this group want to see the South African government do? How far do they want the country's involvement in the current crisis to go?
Well, absolutely, Khayelihle. For now, it's just a handful of people who have just turned up outside the Zimbabwean embassy in Pretoria. So the clarion call is very much crystal clear for South Africa. For the longest time, South Africa has been involved in trying to make sure that there is stability in Zimbabwe. So you go back to the quiet diplomacy during the presidency of former President Thabo Mbeki. So that's when a lot of issues happened. So now the plea is for South Africa to really get involved. And we know of the spillover effects from time to time if there are issues happening in Zimbabwe. So it tends to have a very effect also in South Africa. So hence the plea for South African authorities to try and broker a solution to the current impasse that we're seeing unfolding in Zimbabwe. But of course, we saw a statement from the side of the President of South Africa saying they're monitoring the developments in Zimbabwe. A lot of consultations are happening diplomatically in making sure that a solution is found. So Khayelihle, we know that in some towns, for example, like Musina, we've seen panic buying where a lot of Zimbabwean nationals are coming to the other side of the border to source the fuel, but also the foodstuff, given the shortages that we have seen. But Khayelihle, maybe just to paint a picture of what exactly are Zimbabweans seeking from South Africa, perhaps to really elaborate further. We're joined here by General Marshall. He's with the Zimbabwean Business Forum. So thank you so much for joining us, General Marshall. So what exactly are you seeking from South Africa?
As you know, South Africa is a major player in the SADC and in the AU. The role that SA should take is the role that Nigeria is taking in ECOWAS. We don't need much from South Africa, but we only need intervention with respect to making sure that the government restores the internet. The government also respects the rights of individuals. Currently, we are living in a country it's like we're in a war zone, whereby the state itself has declared war on its citizens. Without the intervention of South Africa, we're going to go back again to Mugabe's era of 2008.
And just briefly, General Marshall, before I let you go, the economic impact since the stairway started in earnest on Monday. What's been the impact on the ground?
Well, I don't think they care about the impact of that. But as you know, we've got buses, we've got all businesses from South Africa to Zimbabwe. Right now, it's a war zone. Who can do business in a war zone? So definitely we are in a state whereby it's a matter of survival of the fittest. Therefore, with that kind of attitude in the economy, we won't be able to run the economy in a proper way.
All right, so thank you so much indeed for that, General Marshall. So Khayelihle, as you can just really see behind me, the multitudes are really coming over now to the embassy where they're expected to present a petition to the High Commissioner here in Zimbabwe. Security has also been beefed up. You have a lot of units. You have the diplomatic unit, which is now deployed around the precinct of the embassy to make sure that during the course of the pickets, nothing untoward happens. So also, there are lots of placards that they are carrying here, the picketers, in essence, denouncing the human rights violations that you have seen in Zimbabwe. And also, at this point, we haven't seen really an official death toll or anything to that effect released by the authorities, perhaps to give a snapshot of what has been happening on the ground. And we know that the internet remains shut down, and the Minister of Information has actually denied any claims that the internet has been shut down, which is, of course, is very startling. So right now they are positioned there, Khayelihle. So as the day progresses, we'll be able just to keep a very beady eye on the developments here, and we'll be giving you all the latest.
Still early stages, Khayelihle, but do we know if anyone will come out to receive this group that is demonstrating outside the High Commissioner's residence? Is the High Commissioner even there?
Khayelihle, we've been trying to get hold of the High Commissioner for some time, so ideally that's how it should be. So if people present themselves here. So ideally someone should come out and actually receive the petition. So I'm just going to step out of the shot one more time, Thembekile, just to give you a glimpse of what is currently happening now. So the picketers are now approaching the embassy. So also you have a number of police that are deployed here to make sure that everything is maintained, law and order prevails in essence here. So a very interesting development. So, you know, here in South Africa there is a very large Zimbabwean population, so a lot of them carrying very quite strong placards really specifying their demands. They're talking about, for example, one of them is talking about the soldiers killing innocent people. And also, of course, the message is very clear for South Africa really to come through. So it's not really a massive crowd that is here. So for now, we're expecting the numbers perhaps to swell during the course of the day. But Thembekile, perhaps we can take a listen to what is currently unfolding here. So absolutely, Thembekile, there you have it. This is where now the picketers are heading to. So they are going right into the gate, the entrance point of the embassy here in Zimbabwe. So they are chanting Ndebele songs, so basically saying they are hating what is currently happening in Zimbabwe. And we know for some time the administration of President Mnangagwa has been talking about kickstarting the economy in Zimbabwe, but it appears those efforts really have not yielded any of the intended outcome. So there you have it. They're really showing us the placards, the untold suffering of Zimbabweans. Mnangagwa must resign now. South Africa is our home. Stop human rights abuse in Zimbabwe. So let's perhaps try to take a listen once more time. Okay, perhaps let's try and get some of the picketers. I'm just going to ask you, sir, why are you here today?
Yes, how are you?
Yeah, just tell me why you're here, part of this demonstration.
We are here in the Zimbabwean embassy because we need the internet to be on, the switch off the internet. And also we want Mnangagwa stop accusing people. He must respect human rights to the people. Zimbabweans, as we are suffering here in South Africa, we love our country, and we are asking Ramaphosa to intervene in our story.
Yes. So absolutely, very sharp views. What do you want to see happening in Zimbabwe now?
Right now in Zimbabwe, we want to see restoration of total democracy, not fake democracy. And we want SADC not to treat ZANU-PF with kid gloves as it has always been done. And the African Union and the United Nations must intervene immediately. So many people have been killed during this shutdown of the internet, and so many relatives are missing. We want to account for all those relatives as soon as possible. Thank you.
So there you have it. Those are some of the demands, and surprisingly enough, we haven't seen any particular statement from SADC nor the African Union. So silence has indeed been deafening from their side, as the Zimbabweans are calling for them perhaps to initiate new measures of trying to deal with the situation. So back to you, Thembekile.
I'm not sure how much you are able to hear me, Khayelihle, but the demonstration today in Johannesburg speaks to shattered hopes, I suppose, from the side of Zimbabweans, because a few months ago, for many, when Emmerson Mnangagwa was brought in as president and eventually elected, a lot of the Zimbabweans living in South Africa had even said that perhaps this is the beginning of a new era, a new beginning. A lot of them return back home to see what they can do along with their families to rebuild their country. But yet again, another mishap, if you will, another disaster in the road to recovery for Zimbabwe.
Well, absolutely. A quick summation to it. It's almost like a dream deferred. For the longest time, we know that President Mnangagwa, for example, talked about opening Zimbabwe for the business. But we haven't seen really investments coming through in Zimbabwe. The economy is still in the state of disarray. So as you can see, the anger that is being expressed here, it's really expressly about their outrage that a lot of people are feeling on the ground. But also, we've seen a very worrisome development. The president decided to go to an official visit to the Federal Republic of Russia instead of attending to the domestic issues. So really very, very concerning developments.
All right, eNCA reporter Khayelihle Khumalo watching that demonstration by a group of Zimbabweans here in South Africa who are trying to apply pressure this afternoon, if you will, on the South African government to step in following those violent scenes that we saw break out in areas including the capital Harare and the second city of Bulawayo on Monday. Zimbabweans saying enough is enough after the government more than doubled fuel prices overnight. Well, we've also been speaking to a Zimbabwean human rights law expert, Thompson Chingeta, about the country's decision to block internet access. He says that decision is not in line with the law and is a violation of access to information. Chingeta has now also been highlighting problems created by the internet shutdown.